4485. That's 602-944-4485. Young Builders, 602-944-4485. I'm meteorologist John Weatherby.
And right now it's sunny, 91 degrees. The Dow is down 36 points at 16,524. The S&P down 1 at 1883. The NASDAQ is up 3 at 4130. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Morgan.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. This is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. We're a weekly program that is found here on Money Radio, 1510 AM and 99.3 FM. Coming to you live here Fridays from 12 to 1 o'clock. We're a show that is bringing to our community ways to live a healthier, happier, longer life. And there is no better way to live a healthier, happier, better life than really having a strong core and a good, solid back. And there's something that I hear all the time being in the home care business, and that is people are challenged with back pain. And I've got a great guest here today. I've got Dr. Duane Pitt, and he's from the Desert Institute for Spine Disorders.
Correct.
And he's here today to talk to us about spine health. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being on. And I wanted to talk to you about aging. And we'd like to talk about aging in place. Our audience and our community want to be able to stay at home. And the services that Cypress provides enables them to do so. And so many home care agencies, as well as adult children, allow people to be able to stay at home. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Pitt, and I'm just going to come straight out. Is there a link between aging and back pain?
Well, it's very clear. The incidence of back pain increases as you get older, up until your middle age, and as you get into your late 70s and 80s, sometimes the back pain does improve to some degree. Think of it this way. If you're young, child, teenager, you have a relatively new spine. Nothing should be broken. The warranties still work in effect, but nothing should be broken. But as we get into our middle age, we get into our 30s and 40s, you have a joint or a disc in the back or a facet joint that is arthritic. You have the pieces moving against each other, and so therefore there will be an increased incidence of back pain. And then as you get older into your 80s and 90s, sometimes the back pain does improve because it becomes stiff. Not because the arthritis went away, but just because of stiffening of the joints, stiffening of the ligaments, and people are moving a little bit slower.
You know, the analogy you gave when we were preparing for the show was you talked about an automobile. I think you were referring to tires.
It's really a good analogy when you're looking at the spine itself. And the spinal segment has a vertebrae, and then in between the vertebrae is a disc. It's kind of like a shock absorber between the vertebrae. It's there to absorb vibration. And we use some of the same vernacular to describe a degenerating or arthritic disc as you would to describe a worn tire. Over time, you get sidewall bulges, you get cracks or fissures or tears on the side of the tire, and you also have desiccation of the tire and dry rot in a sense. But on the MRI findings, we'll describe that as more desiccation or degeneration, and then loss of disc space height or loss of tread height. So we use somewhat of the same vernacular. Each one of those things, such as disc bulging and angular tears, are really signs of degeneration, signs of normal active wear and tear that's occurring at that level of the disc, and not really by themselves a indicator of something that's a problem.
We're talking about the link between back pain and aging and wear and tear. Is there anything you recommend, just that comes to top of mind, how we can do a better job caring for our back?
Oh yeah, there's a number of things that are important to help preserve your back as long as possible, because there's nothing you can do to prevent the aging process. If I can come up with a way, then I don't want to be sitting here. But the reality is there's no cure for aging. And this aging process requires people to also take care of themselves to help preserve their back, preserve their joints, their hips and knees and other bearing surfaces in their body. Smoking, for example, is an excellent example because it does decrease oxygenation to tissues that need oxygenation. And so in a disc which has a very limited blood supply, having that embarrassed or having that reduced because of the use of nicotine, which is a vasoconstrictor, reduces blood flow, or having the amount of good blood showing up in the area because of the competition between oxygen and carbon monoxide from the tobacco use is a problem for the tissues. So the tissues don't do well in patients who smoke. That's why people who smoke, the skin doesn't look as good as it should, not as vibrant. And you can imagine the same process is occurring inside your body as what you can see on the outside in patients who smoke. And so it does increase the rate of arthritis and degeneration if you smoke.
See, I never really knew that. That's incredible. I knew what you talked about with the skin, but the oxygenation and its effect on
tissue perfusion,
tissue and organs and everything that goes on. That is phenomenal, and it is amazing. And one of the things, my wife is a personal trainer, and she talks about it all the time, especially when it comes to backs. When you're lifting, bend from the knees.
That's right.
Right? Because so many people are so apt to just bend over and just lift straight up, and that's where they're
proper body mechanics. Very, very important. You'll find that people who are athletic for a living, they typically do well because they are in good physical condition. And as we lose that physical conditioning, we lose proper muscle tone for the muscle groups around your spine that help to support the spine. And without that proper support, you're at increased risk of injury. And that's why exercise and proper body mechanics is so important.
And using your legs is very, very important.
That's right.
We talked about smoking, and we're just jumping right into this, Dr. Pitt, because I know our audience wants to hear this. And I want to ask you what some of the other causes of back pain and injuries are. And we talked a little bit about this before the show, and poor posture being one of them, and one of the ones that we talked about was being overweight.
Yes. I mean, if you imagine carrying something very heavy, some people would describe having a lot of back pain. If you were asked to carry the groceries in from the car, and sometimes that may aggravate your back pain because of the amount of weight. So if you imagine if you have that extra weight on board, adding a load to your spine, you can imagine that if there's arthritis, you would have an increased risk of back pain. So if you want to preserve the discs in your back, preserve those little tires, the motor mounts, the shock absorbers between the vertebrae, then you need to reduce some of the load on the spine also.
Interesting. I mean, I know this, and we certainly, you would think that it's human nature to know this, but we do put, by having extra weight on, the wear and tear, not just on our back, but all our joints, our knees, our hips, everything goes along with that.
Imagine trying to drive a car on bicycle tires. You're going to wear those tires out very, very quickly.
Right.
Adding the extra weight to tires is really the issue.
Yeah, and really, by taking care of yourself, living a healthier, happier life, which is really the motto for our show here, will preserve your back. And one of the things we did talk about as well is one of the number one reasons for back pain is aging, and we don't have a cure for aging.
No cure for aging. And if you look at the statistics, about 90% of the U.S. population will suffer from back pain at some point in their lives. There's nothing you can do to avoid it. All you can do is help reduce the amount of aggravation you'll experience through your lifespan with smoking cessation and exercise and losing weight and living a healthier lifestyle.
Everybody, did you hear that? Living a healthier, happier life will preserve that back, and that back is really the core of who you are and affects everything about you. I know we're going to get real close to taking a break here, but I want to talk about in our next segment how to find relief. And
Okay.
the one thing I know about you, Dr. Pitt, is that you're not about surgery if you don't need it.
That's correct.
And I know that about you, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. But there are many different options out there to find back pain relief.
Exactly.
So we'll be back to talk to Dr. Duane Pitt, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm Bob Roth. Dr. Duane Pitt is here today in the house from Desert Institute for Spine Disorders. We will be right back.
Money for now, money for later, money for your heirs. The things you're concerned about, we talk about and offer great advice. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Keeping it real about all things real estate on Money Radio. Host and mortgage specialist Justin Oliver and Ryan Whalen get real about the Valley's housing market, current interest rates, and the financial industry. Tune in Saturdays at noon and listen to the Oliver Whalen team keeping it real, with guests including real estate experts, financial planners, and other Valley professionals on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM. Need a mortgage? Call Justin and Ryan today, 480-821-2577. NMLS numbers 16486921779. Nova NMLS numbers 3087BK0902429.
I'll never forget
that moment.
as long as I live.
As long as I live.
My first call ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going out to drop water on the fires.
Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews.
At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Arizona National Guard. Aired by the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, this is Dan Schaefer, host of Absolute Investment Strategies and author of Profiting in Economic Storms. Are you considering making a change with your portfolio? Are your investments aligned with the unstable political climate? Do you think the stock market is too high and interest rates are too low? Join me on Saturday at 1 p.m. where I'll be discussing what's behind this week's movements in the stock market, interest rates, the dollar, and gold, amongst other investments. I'll also share my philosophy and thoughts about our current economic climate and how it may be affecting your investments. There are ways to make money in both bull and bear markets, and I will be sharing my thoughts on how you should be preparing for a major shift in global economic policies using 5 liquid asset classes. Whether you're an investor, trader, or have someone else advising you on your money, you might be interested in what I have to say. Remember, it's your money. That's Absolute Investment Strategies with me, Dan Schaefer, Saturday at 1 p.m. Or for more information, check us out on the web at AbsoluteInvestmentStrategies.com. That's AbsoluteInvestmentStrategies.com.
Frustrated with your current provider and their constant outages? Western WiMAX can install your new reliable service before your next billing cycle with your current provider. 480-575-7550.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. This is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And we have our guest today from the Desert Institute of Spine Disorders, Dr. Duane Pitt. If you're just tuning in, we are a weekly show that is found right here on 1510 AM Money Radio, 99.3 FM. And if you missed our first segment and you've missed other segments prior, I encourage you to go to our website, cypresshomecare.com, push on the radio button up on the top, and you can listen to some of the archived shows that we have put together. And today is our 15th show, and I've got Dr. Duane Pitt in the house.
Hello.
And Dr. Pitt, you are an accomplished surgeon, and I would love for you to tell our audience, before we get into finding how to find back pain relief, I would love for you to tell our audience how you got into this specialty and how you got into this field.
It's interesting. I was expected, like everyone else in my family, to become a carpenter. I'm a product of 3 generations of Bermudan carpenters, boat builders, furniture makers, and my grandfather basically thought I was going to follow into everyone else's footsteps. And when I told him I wanted to be a doctor, he was a little disappointed at first. But then he said, hey, well, there's a specialty called orthopedics, and that's where I was going. I never stopped, never looked back. I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I knew I liked orthopedics when I was in residency and medical school, and that's how I got into it. I came from Loma Linda University, where I did my orthopedic residency, and it was very, very heavy in spine. Even before my postdoctoral fellowship, we were already doing large reconstructions on children and adults, scoliosis mainly at Loma Linda University. And then I went on to finish my training at USC under Dr. Watkins and Dr. Williams, and did a lot of scoliosis reconstructions there too, as well as sports-related spinal disorders. I took care of a lot of pro ball players and then a lot of the bread and butter spinal conditions.
So I think your grandfather's not only proud that you chose to be a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, but you're still doing carpentry. You're probably out there with a lot of saws and hammers and drills. So you're doing carpentry every day.
Carpentry, a different medium, but it's still the pleasure of being able to put something together and provide for somebody something that they can get to enjoy afterwards.
Yeah, and for our audience, we're going to get into our next segment talking about what a great humanitarian Dr. Pitt is, because he is doing some great work in helping people get their lives back. But I want to pick up where we left off, and we were talking about aging and the link to back pain, and you were talking about smoking and living a healthier life, and looking at you, Dr. Pitt, you look like you take good care of yourself.
I try to, as with many doctors, some of us don't live the lifestyle that we should.
Right.
You gave me the example of a cardiologist, and I was able to acknowledge that. I knew a guy who was a cardiologist who was significantly overweight. I try to keep my weight down, try to eat right. My wife and I are predominantly fish-eating vegetarians. Every now and then we'll eat other meats, but it's pretty rare at this point. And we don't smoke. We don't do a lot of alcohol, every now and then maybe. But for the most part, it's about, again, living a healthier lifestyle so that near the end you're not suffering as much.
Right. And we all I see it in home care, and you see it in your practice.
That's right.
You see people that have really punished themselves and are paying for it right now.
Exactly. Looking clearly beyond their stated age.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's why the purpose of this show, talking about living a healthier, happier life. And I want to jump in and talking about finding back pain relief. And the thing I like about you, Dr. Pitt, is surgery is not the first option you want to explore if that's not necessary. So if you could share with us ways that you prescribe to your patients to find relief for back pain that they're dealing with.
And it's not just back pain, but it's also back pain, neck pain, arm pain, leg pain. When you have anything that's related to the spine, the reality is less than 1% or possibly 1% of patients with a disabling condition will require surgery. Most people can be treated conservatively with physical therapy, anti-inflammatory medication, exercise, smoking abatement, anti-inflammatories as needed, and a lot of core stabilization. There's other techniques that are available that help with patients with arm or what we call radicular complaints. What radicular means is basically arm pain or leg pain, pain that follows a nerve down an extremity. Epidurals work very well for that in controlling the pain and discomfort. And it's not a panacea. It doesn't help everybody, but it's a really good first-line treatment option as opposed to going right to surgery.
Right, and the physical part, the physical medicine part, I know you advocate, getting in to see a physical therapist and strengthening certain muscles.
Exactly.
To give them a better outcome.
Exactly. In fact, on my website, we have at azspinesurgeon.com, we have a trunk stabilization program. that you can download. It's about 20 pages long. It has pictures and diagrams, and you can go through it. It gives you a history of it and why it works, and you can take that form with you to the physical therapist and say, hey, this is what I need. This is what Dr. Pitt recommended for my back condition. And it works for most people, whether it's our pro athletes or our lazy boy sideline couch potato.
There you go. There you go. And I'm looking at your website right now, and for our audience, it's azspinesurgeon.com. And there's a button down the left-hand side, and wow, you've got an incredible document library here where you can go ahead and just print these kind of things out. Trunk stabilization's one, and you've got a lot of others here that are great resources for people that are looking for remedies to help with their challenges that they're dealing with.
Exactly. And when it comes to the trunk stabilization, people need to make sure that they get in to see a professional and not just try it on their own. They can download the program, go through it, read it in preparation to see the physical therapist so that therapist can then instruct them on a proper home exercise program after they've showed them the proper techniques and performing the core stabilization.
So we talked a little bit about some medications that they can take. We talked about physical medicine, and then obviously the last resort is surgery.
That's right.
And you want your patients to explore every option before they go under the knife.
That's exactly right. I believe you get a better result when patients have already tried the conservative medical approach first.
Right.
Patients are in better physical condition. They may have stopped smoking. They're in better trunk stabilization, control of their spine. So they're in better condition to undergo surgery, and often they may actually get a better result having tried the conservative stuff first.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. And really, in looking at finding relief, the one thing that we talked about earlier on the show, the next point I want to talk about is prevention. And prevention is the things that we talked about, is using your legs, being smart about how you use your back in your day-to-day activities.
That's correct. Proper body mechanics, bending with your hips and knees, keeping your weight down, smoking abatement. All those things do help.
Absolutely. I know that oftentimes people are dealing with the back pain, and I'm going to just ask this question right out. When do you feel it is time for a patient to come and see you? I mean, what will cause a patient to say, enough? I've tried. I haven't gotten the relief.
The patient's first line should be with their primary care physician.
Okay.
They're their first line, whether it's the PCP, family medicine doctor, internal medicine, OBGYN, whoever's your primary care physician needs to first work you through a program of physical therapy like we talked about, an anti-inflammatory medication, but they also need to see the specialist when all those things have been exhausted and make sure there's no evidence of cancer. Keep in mind that cancer only affects 1.8% of the population with back pain, so it's still very rare.
Wow, okay. I did not know that, because I do know that sometimes people are dealing with back pain relative to cancer. Well, we're going to wind up this segment. It's hard to believe we're flying through this, Dr. Pitt, and this is really good stuff that our audience is hearing, and it's good stuff for me to hear, and I love that you not only preach good, healthy living, but you're practicing it too. In our next segment, I want to talk about the humanitarian efforts that you're doing. Phenomenal. I want our audience to hear about the great work that Dr. Duane Pitt is doing in the world. And with that, we're going to have to take a break now. And you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm here with Dr. Duane Pitt from the Desert Institute for Spine Disorders. This is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be right back.
Now, a break for an update on the latest news from around the world on NBC from Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
NBC News Radio, I'm Luke Russert. The labor market roared ahead in April as employers added 288,000 jobs to payrolls, the most in more than 2 years. CNBC economic analyst Ron Insana.
If you look over the last 3 months, we're now averaging more than 200,000 jobs created per month, and that's definitely picking up from where we've been.
At a joint press conference with German Chancellor Merkel, President Obama stepped up warnings to Russia, threatening tougher and broader new sanctions if Moscow disrupts Ukrainian elections later this month.
We have a range of tools at our disposal, including sanctions that would target certain sectors of the Russian economy. And we've been consulting closely with our European and G7 partners, and we're stepping up our planning.
In Afghanistan, a landslide has buried a village, claiming at least 350 lives. The United Nations mission in that country is working with officials on the ground to rescue people still trapped. The governor says more than 2,000 people are missing. This is NBC News Radio.
It's a 5-hour drive to Grandma's house. That's 10 car songs, 15 games of 20 questions, 20 answers to the same question.
Are we there yet?
Not yet. And one stop to refuel.
The quality gasolines at Exxon and Mobil stations are the energy behind your journeys. They help engines run smoother and help improve fuel economy, too, for more quality moments along the way. Because the quality fuel here...
Are we there yet?
Yes, we are. We'll get you there.
Grandma!
Exxon and Mobil. Energy lives here. Go to Exxon.com or Mobil.com for more details.
This is Charles Osgood. Go down the pain relief aisle, and you'll see there are a lot of pain relievers out there. But there's a powerful one you may not have heard of. Salonpas Jet Spray. Salonpas Jet Spray is a clear, fast-drying, pain-relieving spray perfect for sore muscles or joints. It has 2 active ingredients that give it the strength to work for hours and hours. Look for the blue bottle with the blue cap and spray your way to relief. Salonpas. Powerful relief when and where you need it. Use as directed.
Ford technicians really know tires. After all, they sell one every 4 seconds.
Have your tires inspected during the big tire event going on at your Ford dealer. You'll even get up to $120 in mail-in rebates on select tires when you use the Ford Service credit card. Subject to credit approval. Rebate by prepaid debit card. Other tire manufacturer rebate or offer cannot be combined with Ford Service credit card rebate or offer. See your participating Ford dealer for details through 5/31/14.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Obvious.
If your hotel balcony lacks a railing and a floor, it's probably just a window. If you're going to LA, don't book a hotel room in Tallahassee. If you want to book hotels from your mobile device, use the Hotels.com mobile app. You can't use it until you download it, but once you have, you've got it.
Hotels.com, the obvious.
For over 25 years, we've been giving you the means to make your money grow. It's no coincidence we call ourselves Money Radio.
Join Matt Dana from the Dana Law Firm every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. for his weekly Estate Planning with the Dana Law Firm program. With over 25 years of experience, Matt will give you cutting-edge strategies, ideas, and tips on how to protect your estate from an unexpected event. Plus, you'll even learn how to protect and maximize your family's inheritance on estate planning with the Dana Law Firm with Matt Dana every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Nearly 1 of 3 Arizona children struggle with hunger in Arizona, but you can help make their day brighter without leaving your driveway. It's time to stamp out hunger with the annual Letter Carriers Food Drive. The 22nd annual National Association of Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive is Saturday, May 10th, all over the country. It's simple. Just leave a bag of non-perishable food items by the mailbox and your letter carrier will do the rest. Please fill the shelves of St. Mary's Food Bank on Saturday, May 10th and stamp out hunger in your community.
Attention boomers and retirees. If you've recently received a proposal for an annuity on the radio, internet, or seminar, and maybe purchased an annuity recently, then your future retirement income may be in jeopardy. You need to call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions ASAP. The financial services industry states, past performance is not indicative of future results. Yet many advisors and insurance agents are showing hypothetical projections to boomers and retirees and not the actual guarantees. Don't gamble or jeopardize your future retirement income to you and benefits to your spouse or heirs by being misled by hypothetical illustrations. What you don't know might severely impact your future retirement income. Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604 extension 200 and set up a complimentary session to learn the facts that your advisor or insurance agent may not be telling you. Call 800-957-5604 extension 200 and on the web, theripa.com. Annuities are not suitable for all investors. Guarantees based on the benefits paying ability of an insurance company and Comdex rating score.
You need your car whenever you need your car. Safe Auto gets it. That's why they are here day and night to help keep you going. Call 1-800-SAFE-AUTO if you ever need a friendly voice.
More Americans have ink. This is the Dow Jones Money Report. I'm Jen Ursillo. Tattooed Americans are more likely to be uninsured, live in a Republican congressional district, and voted for Barack Obama. Those are some of the findings from the Journal NBC poll. Since 1999, when the poll asked people if they or someone in their household have a tattoo, the number of people responding yes nearly doubled from 21 to 40%. Stocks are mixed as investors' enthusiasm about a surge in hiring last month was held back by mixed earnings news and a flare-up in tensions in Ukraine. The Dow Jones Industrials are down 38 points at 16,520. The Nasdaq's up 2 points. The S&P 500 down 1. LinkedIn is down 7% after reporting its largest quarterly loss since the professional networking service went public. LG Electronics plans to launch a new flagship smartphone as early as this month as it tries to turn around its money-losing mobile business and compete with bigger rivals. The LG G3 will feature a bigger high-definition screen. I'm Jen Ursillo with the Dow Jones Money Report.
Is driving in traffic aggravating your back or knee pain? Better drive over and pick up some Salon Pause Jet Spray and get powerful relief. Salon Pause Jet Spray is a fast-acting pain reliever for muscle and joint pain. It has 2 powerful active ingredients that spray on clear, dry fast, and provide hours and hours of relief. Look for the blue can with the blue cap. Salon Pause, powerful relief when and where you need it. Use as directed.
From helping florists manage their first payroll, to checking sales projections for logistics companies, to showing garages how much they've been paid, to pursuing leads for multinationals, Sage Software helps businesses manage. Whether it's accounting, payroll, payments, ERP, or CRM, Sage gives you the control to look forward with confidence. Visit sageconfidence.com.
The money talk you love, still on 1510 AM, and now 99.3 FM. Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. This is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And our guest today is Dr. Duane Pitt from the Desert Institute for Spine Disorders. And I want to make sure I get this out and our audience can hear this. Dr. Pitt was very kind to give us his website. I'll give it again. It's azspinesurgeon.com. And his phone number, if you have any questions for him, is 480-656-4048. And if you call in, as you can imagine, Dr. Pitt is a very, very busy doctor. Ask for Bianca Shaw. Bianca Shaw will be able to take a message, or she'll be able to help you connect with Dr. Pitt. So, Dr. Pitt, we've learned a lot about living a healthier life, a happier life, and really taking care of your spine. You have done some incredible humanitarian work, and you shared with our audience a little bit about your background being from Bermuda, and you make a trip annually, actually several times a year, down to Dominican Republic to do some great work. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but you've created this not-for-profit called International Surgical Foundation, and I'd love for you to tell our audience about the great work you're doing. You know, Winston Churchill had this great saying, and my father taught me it as well, and that is, you make a life out of not what you make, out of what you give. And you are an incredible giving person, and you're doing some incredible work. You're doing God's work. So please share with our audience the great work that you're doing down in Dominican Republic.
We have a team of between 20 and 40 members, volunteers, who provide complex surgical services to the underserved of this country. We really want to branch out to other locations and other third world countries. This is where we're focused now in Dominican Republic. And many of the patients that come to see us down there have significant life and limb disabling conditions, conditions in which their spines are crooked, their spines are bent, they're unable to stand up straight. Some of these kids have early onset restrictive lung disease. What that means is their lungs don't open properly. They can't get enough air because the scoliosis has restricted their function. And so the objective is to get in there and provide the service that we take for granted here in the United States. We grew up in a country in which we have school screening physicals on a regular basis for our children in the elementary schools, and kids are constantly bent over, and the teachers or the school nurse looks at their spine and says, okay, your spine is straight, you're good. If it's crooked, you need to go see a spine specialist. And so early prevention, early diagnosis is critical, and therefore you can get the patients in earlier, get the surgical treatment if necessary, or bracing to help retard or reduce the level or the rate of scoliosis that often ensues in patients with idiopathic scoliosis. But in third world countries, it's not available. So the people have to live with what they have. They're basically living like it's medicine 2,000 years ago, where we don't have scoliosis reconstructive capabilities. We don't have modern medicine in some of these small rural villages, and so people come in off the out of their villages and into the clinics with diseases that we just don't see here in the United States.
How did you get started in this?
And back in 2010, I was asked to join a few people, a local organization here, Dr. Severino Rodriguez was one of them, to go down to the Dominican Republic and provide scoliosis reconstructive surgery. They saw, they've been doing it for 8 years, and they saw a large number of people with scoliosis, but none of their team members were scoliosis surgeons. They had a general orthopedic surgeon doing hips and knees, and then general surgery, gallbladders, and things like that. And I think people just thought that I'll be able to just come in and with just a few people and a few instruments, start doing 6 and 12-hour spine reconstructions to fix some of these people in the afternoon. And I walked into a clinic there in Dominican Republic, and they had to be over 100 people back in 2010. This was in October 2010. People there with conditions on their spine that we just don't see that often here. I saw it in residency, saw it in training, but the large curves at 120, 150, 160 degree curves were phenomenal.
Wow.
Many people were being carried in. We had one patient down there I saw just recently who was carried in on the back of his friend because they couldn't afford a wheelchair. And he was already at this age paraplegic. He was in his 30s. Because of his condition. And so when we got down there, we realized that, using the local organization and using the Arizona organization that we went down there with was not going to be enough. They were not in a position to help support every month sometimes or every 2-month trip to the Dominican Republic to start screening these kids, the pre-op evaluations, the bracing that has to occur beforehand as part of the conservative medical management or pre-surgical management and preparing these kids or adults for surgery. So we started the organization along with my surgical team out of Scottsdale Healthcare and my now wife, who started out as a volunteer down there in Dominican Republic. She's a physician also from the Dominican Republic. And we started building this program called International Surgical Foundation.
You got hooked.
Yeah.
And you were hooked in a big way. I mean, this is a real passion. I can see it. I can hear it in your voice. I actually saw you on TV, talking about the humanitarian effort that you and a number of docs are putting together. So I want you to describe for us, and you were describing for me during the break, how this is all put together, because they don't have the equipment, they don't have the tools and instruments that your OR here has.
That's right. It's a much different environment. Even though they have a very nice facility, the hospital in Santiago, Dominican Republic is probably the nicest in all the Caribbean. Basically built for the wealthy of Dominican Republic, and they receive a grant from the government, $60,000 US dollars per year, to help take care of the poor. As you all know, $60,000 doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
That's a few MRIs, a few CT scans, and that's not even counting maybe taking off a mole on somebody, but it doesn't really cover all the surgical needs that must be accomplished during some of our trips. So what we have to do is we have to bring in surgeons, anesthesiologists, surgical techs, nurses, ICU nurses, neuromonitoring techs, blood cell saver devices, and their technicians. And we come down there with about 2 tons of equipment that we have now stored there, but we have to transport that all to the hospital and set up the facility in order to safely perform these reconstructive surgeries.
That sounds like it's a logistical nightmare, but it sounds like also to me when we were talking, you've got it down. And you're not just going once, you're going multiple times a year.
That's right. My wife and I will actually run down and do a clinic about 4 times a year, up to 6 times a year. We fly in on a Friday, run clinic on Saturday, come back on Sunday, because we have to start managing these patients on a regular basis. And we also have 2 orthopedic surgeons down there now who are training to do more spinal surgery and the follow-ups. And we also have the foundation down there, our sister foundation, that helps manage the patients down there. And then once or twice a year, we have a surgical week where we actually do the large reconstructions.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Dr. Pitt, you're doing some great work, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I want our audience to know a little bit more about this. And if you need to find, I want you to see his website. It's called surgicalcharities.org. surgicalcharities.org. He runs a couple fundraisers here a year.
That's
He's got one coming up on the fall.
That's right.
And if you want to learn more about that, I want you to go to that website, or you can reach him at 480-656-4048, and Bianca Shaw or Dr. Pitt can tell you more about it.
That's right.
We've got to conclude this segment. We're going to get ready to start our 4th segment. Our final segment is coming up. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I'm Bob Roth, and I've got a very special guest today, Dr. Duane Pitt. We'll be right back.
Has anyone out there dreamed of owning investment real estate, but were told the down payment requirements were 20 to 25%? I'm Joe Capitano, Senior Vice President, Homeowners Financial Group, MLS number 9826. You know, sometimes they are, but I have great news for you. There's a special program available where the required down payment is only 10%. Now, there's no mortgage insurance required and no expensive appraisal to buy. These properties are all over town. They're easy to find. They're listed with realtors, and I finance them. You know, they're good properties, but they all go fast. So most are rental ready without a lot of deferred maintenance. So call me, Joe Capitano, 480-305-8545, 480-305-8545, or just go to joeloans.com. That's joeloans.com. Arizona Bank number 090-6222, NMLS number 93718, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender. That's joeloans.com. joeloans.com.
Are you looking for the best way to advertise your business? Did you know that advertising with radio reaches audiences that TV advertising cannot? Radio advertising can be heard at the home, in the car, at work, or on the internet. Plus, radio advertising is much less expensive than TV advertising. If you have a business and you want to expand your territory, or if you want to promote your brands and services in a positive light, then call on Broadcast Media Network. Broadcast Media Network offers full-service radio integrated marketing solutions designed to add value at every point on the path to purchase. Times are changing, so why not boost your business with radio advertising? With Broadcast Media Network, you will reach more customers and connect with millions of listeners per month. Put Broadcast Media Network to work for you. For more information on advertising on this show and many other shows that reach your targeted audience, simply call Broadcast Media Network at 888-251-2080. That's 888-251-2080 today.
Safe Auto is always there to help online or through their mobile app with the right car insurance at the right price wherever and whenever you need it. Call, click, and enjoy the road ahead.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. This is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And if you're just tuning in, we've got Dr. Duane Pitt. He's from the Desert Institute for Spine Disorders, and we just left off talking about the International Surgical Foundation, and it's this foundation that you created. And I wanted our audience to make sure they had your website, surgicalcharities.org, and I'm looking on your website right now, and I know you got a trip planned in September.
That's correct.
September 4th through the 11th. And I want our audience and those that are out there, they have a few spots that are left for volunteers, and they're specialists that he's looking for. So if you're listening and you are interested, go to International Surgical Foundation, surgicalcharities.org, and go to a humanitarian experience tab right up on the top, and he has listed the vacancies.
That's right.
You're doing some incredible work. And
thank you.
And like I said during the break, you don't get paid monetarily, but you get paid in so many different ways. And it's got to be so fulfilling, the work that you're doing.
For most of the doctors, when you go down there, it's unlike anything we do here in the States. Practicing medicine is back to where it used to be. The opportunity to take care of patients, the opportunity to treat people without having to deal with co-pays and without having to deal with insurance company authorizations and without the issues arising from a litigious society. Patients are just happy that you're there taking care of them.
They're happy to get the help.
That's right.
And it's interesting for our audience, I got some help from you.
That's right.
I'm a patient of yours.
That's right.
And I suffer from what I think many people do, and that is you were talking about the curve in the spine.
That's correct.
And when I was a child, I got tested out, and they never detected that I had a curve.
But you do have a curve.
I do.
You have a pretty significant curve, too.
Well, thank you. But I got you taking care of me. And the interesting thing for our audience that is listening, if you are dealing with scoliosis, one of the things that Dr. Pitt does subscribe to is that you need to come in and visit. And the thing I love about Dr. Pitt, and we talked about it in our previous segments, is surgery is the very, very last option. But we've got to take care of our back.
That's right. And detection and prevention is very important. There's a lot of things we can do to help stave off the issues related to scoliosis, especially as we get older with degeneration and arthritis. You want to be able to get in front of some of these things. You can't stop the rate of arthritis. It's normal aging. And scoliosis typically stops growing when you're a teenager or preteens, when you stopped at the end of your last growth spurt. So once you're an adult, you have to come in and be seen and evaluated, because if you have a curve that's larger than 50 degrees, you're at risk of progressing 1 degree per year as an adult. So it needs to be watched and followed.
What would you say your practice consists of patients that have scoliosis? And I'm just throwing it out there percentage-wise. Is it a third of your practice? Is it
scoliosis is probably, from the clinic side, probably about 20 to 30% of our practice. From the surgical side, it's probably more like 10% of the practice, because we do a lot fewer of those operations.
Right. And again, if you're dealing with this as I am, it's visiting with a spine doctor, and important to know your progression and where you're at.
That's right.
And all the things we talked about in the early segments, and if you've missed them, please go out to our website and you can go and listen to them at your leisure, going to cypresshomecare.com and clicking on the radio button up on the top left, and all our shows are archived, and Dr. Pitt's show will be archived as well. But you talked about how to be healthier and living a healthier life so that you can prevent that progression that we were talking about, being flexible and bending from the knees when you're lifting. I got a question here, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think a patient's biggest concern is when seeing a spine surgeon, and why? And what advice do you think, or what advice would you give to that patient?
I would say the majority of patients come in knowing that they probably or may need surgery for their condition, because they've already been through all the conservative treatment, but they're afraid. They're afraid because they hear a lot of horror stories about having spinal surgery. Don't have a fusion. You can't have that done. And a lot of the bad precedent as it relates to spinal surgery comes from an era where we used to operate on people who smoked and diabetics and people who were not in the best physical condition and should have probably stopped smoking before surgery. And therefore, because of tobacco use, the rate of non-union or poor healing of the bones is very, very high. So that's probably where that era comes from. And so now, with the modern techniques, the minimally invasive procedures that we're now able to accomplish, patients are getting a much better result, much more consistent as far as the rates at which their pain resolves, and they're able to get back to their lives much more quickly now.
That's great advice. And I got to imagine, if I were that person and I was dealing with a back challenge, that would be my first thought is surgery. And we know so many people that have had surgeries, and we know a lot that have not had so great outcomes.
Yeah, about 10% of 1 to 10% of patients won't have a perfect outcome. 90% do very, very well. And if you imagine that 90% just go on with their lives, you don't hear much about them unless someone brings it up. But the 10%, the 1 to 10%, it's not comfortable, and so they typically have issues that must be continued to be managed throughout their clinic visits. And we continue to support. Every spine surgeon should be supporting those patients on a regular basis.
When we kicked off the segment, we talked about aging and back pain. As you know, Cypress Home Care Solutions is an agency that helps so many of our members of our community age in place with some additional assistance. We've covered a lot of stuff here, Dr. Pitt, and I want to make sure that I've not missed anything in terms of advice and counsel that you would give to people. But the thing I do come to see you, and the thing I like about you is, you're not quick to cut. You're there to give people recommendations on how to strengthen their spine and strengthen the muscles around them. And I said as we opened up, this is your core. And, for me, having dealt with some challenges relative to scoliosis, everything is affected from the spine. Your hips, your feet, your knees, it is all connected.
It's all connected. That's right.
And we learned that in school, didn't we?
That's right.
Okay. You know what? We're getting ready to wrap up our show, and Dr. Pitt, I can't thank you enough for coming on our show, talking about having a healthy spine.
Thank you for having me.
And really talking about the great humanitarian work that you're doing. And I urge those that are listening today that have that desire to assist, please go out to his website, surgicalcharities.org. And also those that are clinicians that may be able to fit the bill, they got a team that is going in September 4th to the 11th, down to Dominican Republic, and that work you're doing is phenomenal. So thank you, Dr. Pitt. It's wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to possibly having you back, because this is a very important subject that we're talking about. The spine is the nucleus of everything that we do.
That's right.
You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And my guest today has been Dr. Duane Pitt. We are on Fridays, 12 o'clock to 1. You can catch us every week. Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. Bob Roth. Make it a great day.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Laura Bramnick is a real estate agent and a consumer advocate.
I try to be a strong voice when dealing with lenders and collection companies, because if someone is facing a possible foreclosure or short sale, they really do need to be aware of the pitfalls. Join us for Talk Real Estate AZ this Thursday at 4:20 p.m.
Or call 480-624-2705. That's 480-624-2705.
More money talk coming up on
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM. But now, a check on the news.
KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. Think and act like a professional trader as Ken Beckridge goes beneath the headlines with the right side of the trade. Tuesday mornings at 9. Dow down 44 points, S&P down 3, the NASDAQ down 3. A big brewery signs a deal with the Teamsters. Phoenix Police Commander under investigation. Sunny today with a light breeze. We'll have those stories plus a look at traffic right after NBC News at 1 o'clock.